ripping right by Max Schmeling. Lewis is in trouble. Another dynamite right. Lewis goes down. Referee Arthur Donovan signals Max to go to a neutral corner. Joe's up on his feet, but it's all Max here in round 4. Max kept pouring it on for the next 8 rounds, and Joe was in trouble throughout. Joe is still on his feet here in the 12th round, but Max is all over the brown bomber. A ripping right to the jaw by Max Schmeling. Crushing punches by Max. Joe is in desperate trouble here in the 12th. Joe is in desperate trouble here in the 12th. A dynamite right, and Lewis goes down. Max Schmeling puts a temporary halt to the meteoric rise of the brown bomber Joe Lewis. Just 1 year later, Joe will win the heavyweight championship from James J. Braddock. Joe will win the heavyweight championship from James J. Braddock with an impressive 8th round knockout. Max Schmeling is interviewed on his arrival to the United States just 2 months ago. Max is very confident he can whip Joe once again and recapture that cherished heavyweight championship.
I expect to knock Lewis out, but after all, I didn't come over for fun. How about a beatbox tip? What round are you going to knock him out in? Well, you come over to the fight.
Introducing that great idol of the prize ring, Jack Dempsey.
Here's challenger Max Schmeling sparring with the Manasseh Mauler, the great Jack Dempsey.
Jack Dempsey trains Max Schmeling to defeat Joe Lewis, 1938.
He defeated 2 years ago, Joe Lewis. Joe Lewis, the heavyweight champion of the world, is also in training, preparing for the most important fight of his life. Joe is anxious to avenge his only loss as a professional. Never has Joe been more dedicated. There is no victory that Joe...
People think that I'm going to the ring gun shy. Why should I go to the ring gun shy when Schmeling is 2 years older and I'm 2 years smarter in boxing?
It's the morning of the fight, June 22nd, 1938. Both men appear at the official weigh-in ceremony. Let's listen to the introduction.
This is the feature attraction, 15 rounds for the World's Heavyweight Championship, weighing 193, wearing purple trunks, outstanding contender for heavyweight honors, the former heavyweight title holder, Max Schmeling. Weighing 198 3/4, wearing black trunks, the famous Detroit Brown Bomber, world's heavyweight champion, Joe Lewis.
The entire world is waiting for the result of this enormously publicized heavyweight championship fight. We're moments away from the opening bell. Joe Louis, heavyweight champion of the world, comes out for round one in the dark trunks with the white stripe. Max Schmeling is wearing the all dark trunks. Since winning the world heavyweight title, Joe has defended it 3 times. In his last defense of the title 10 months ago, Joe KO'd Harry Thomas in the 5th round. Max Schmeling won the heavyweight championship of the world in June of 1930, 8 years ago, from Jack Sharkey. Max was awarded the fight on a foul when he was hit low by a blow thrown by Sharkey. Schmeling lost a close, tough...
As you can see here, Max Schmeling turns his back to Joe Louis because he was hit with a devastating kidney shot, and it destroyed his S1, which controls your left leg, and he couldn't stand. Joe Louis meant business that night, and not a soul in Max Schmeling's camp would be able to save him.
Joe is deadly serious in there.
As you can see here, a turbo scream comes from the diaphragm of Max Schmeling. He is in pain and about to be knocked out.
Joe steps back. A dynamite right to the jaw, and Schmeling goes down here in the 1st round. Ripping punches by the Brown Bomber send Schmeling down again. A crushing right explodes off Schmeling's jaw, and Max goes down for the 3rd time. It doesn't look like Schmeling's going to make it. It's all over. Joe Louis electrifies the boxing world with his magnificent 1st round devastating knockout over Max Schmeling. Let's watch those 3 knockdowns once again. With a right, and then follows through with a jolting right to the jaw. Max is hurt as he holds on to the ropes. A ripping right to the side by Joe Louis. It's all Joe now. The Brown Bomber raining punches. Joe wants to finish it here in round 1. An explosive right sends Schmeling to the canvas for the 1st time. Max rolls over and is up at the count of 2. Another right to the jaw, and Schmeling is in desperate trouble. Max goes down for the 2nd time. Now it's Joe Louis, the Brown Bomber, at his dynamite best. A right to the body. Another jolting right, and Max goes down for the 3rd and last time.
Now, Max Schmeling began to cry foul when he was in the hospital. And it didn't come from Max Schmeling. It was Max Schmeling's camp. Because they needed justification for Max Schmeling to not be thrown in jail when he got back to Germany.
For 10 more electrifying years, the Brown Bombers' explosive fists will devastate challengers as quickly as they can climb to the top of the heavyweight ladder. For 10 more electrifying years, the Brown Bombers' explosive fists will devastate challengers as quickly as they can climb to the top of the heavyweight ladder. The Brown Bombers' dynamite punches will thrill audiences and scramble all opposition for a record 25 world heavyweight title defenses. Joe Louis becomes a legend in his own time, adored by fight fans throughout the world, respected and feared by all heavyweight challengers, and eventually, after his retirement, revered in boxing's Hall of Fame as the greatest heavyweight champion of all time.
Now, Joe Louis was welcomed in Harlem in open arms. Matter of fact, Joe Louis would walk with his beautiful wife, Margaret Trotter, over the Willis Avenue Bridge. They would walk up 155th Street near the Polo Grounds. And they would stop at the Savoy Ballroom and listen to Chick Webb and Ella Fitzgerald. And that party went on all night. San Francisco, San Diego, Alabama, California, New York, and Detroit. One of the greatest moments in boxing history. And Joe Louis was satisfied his people and protect his legacy as the greatest heavyweight champion of his time. One vertebrae broken X-ray reports show Louis leaves Gotham without signing for September bout. And the reason that was, they wanted Joe Louis to go to Germany to have a rematch with Max Schmeling. And he said absolutely not. Max Schmeling would go to the hospital. And he would be there for 10 days. Now, Joe Louis was sent to Polyclinic Hospital, as you can see here, for 10 days. Joe Jacobs, his American manager, announced this afternoon, Dr. Robert E. Brennan, who was attending the German, advised 3 weeks in bed for complete recuperation for a fractured vertebrae. Like Ernie Scaff, Primo Carnera, said he was afraid that Max Schmeling might wind up losing his life the way Ernie Scaff did when Primo Carnera tapped an existing cyst that was supplied by Max Baer. He would die in a hospital. And Max Schmeling's wife would be sent by Hitler to be by her husband's side. Just scanning through to show you some of the articles. Now, in this article here, the Nazis deny faking Louis fight films. What they're talking about, right before Schmeling was counted out, they stopped the cameras. The movies of Schmeling defeat arrived too late. German Bureau. Here is told. A reply to John Roxburgh. That's Joe Louis's manager. And they manipulated the film, changed some pictures around, and made it seem like Joe Louis was dropped and hurt. It made it seem as though the referee had stopped the fight unjustly for Max Schmeling. And that's the reason why Arthur Donovan was called into the New York State Athletic Commission's office before the fight, and he was told, you don't stop this fight unless a man is completely knocked out, because it could start a war. And Joe Louis made a very interesting comment. He said when he went down to see Roosevelt, Japanese dignitaries were already there. And when Roosevelt saw Louis, they held up the Japanese dignitaries and called Joe Louis in the office first and told him, you can't not only defeat him, you have to knock this man completely out. And that was a direct order to Joe Louis. That's how big this fight was. Now, the Ku Klux Klan was on the move. And although they were happy about the results of the United States defeating Germany when Joe Louis knocked out Maximilian in one round. But Joe Louis was a black man. And they couldn't stand the sight of black audiences celebrating a victory of a black fighter. Now, I brought out a Henry Armstrong scrapbook to show you that Henry Armstrong later that year would defeat Lou Ambers for the lightweight championship belt. And he would then become a three-time three-weight division world champion. Armstrong's still a strong choice to bid for his third ring title. And all this happened in 1938. Amazing. What a moment. In the African American community. The following day, lines will be wrapped around the block twice at the RKO movie theater to see Joe Louis knock out Max Schmeling in the first round. Amazing. Joe Louis meets up with Bob Pastor. New York's Madison Square Garden. Bob Pastor was from the Bronx, New York. And he made a statement stating that he's the one that packed up the garden. Joe Louis was something else, I'll tell you. What a fighter he was. Absolutely remarkable. Amazing. Joe Louis was just a phenomenal fighter. Drew record gates. And to think, a black fighter would control Madison Square Garden. In New York's Yankee Stadium. Absolutely phenomenal. He's number 5, the highest paid fighter. June 22nd, 1938. Joe Louis, Max Schmeling. Incredible. Jack Blackburn now puts Louis ahead of List, even above Langford. Now, I got that stretching it a bit, but that's Jack Blackburn's opinion. Old Jack Blackburn, one of the greats of another boxing era, pulled up a chair in the dressing room this afternoon and said that he has changed his opinion of Joe Louis for the better. You see, that was such a shocking moment that Joe Louis looked invincible, although he was already knocked out in 1936 by Max Schmeling. That's the end of this video. June 20, 1936, newspapers read, Max Schmeling, the Bronx, New York, New York's Yankee Stadium, knocks out Joe Louis in 12 rounds. $125,535, scheduled for 15 rounds. 43,088 spectators in attendance. Gross receipts, $547,541. Amazing. Net receipts was $464,945. Motion pictures, 25,000. Radio, 27,500. Joe Louis gets 72 straight right hands as it lands on his face in front of his hometown. Most exciting crowd. And Joe Louis sold out all the newspapers, no matter where he went or what he did. If he went to the barber shop or had his shoe shine, it would be a small article in a newspaper, and the entire paper was sold for that article. And when Joe Louis fought, the establishment realized that Harlem would have 8 to 20 people around the radio, and they would lose radio rights and monies that was sold. So they decided to open up the RKO movie theater where they would show the fights of Joe Louis the following day. And you would have 2 lines around the block. Everyone had on their most expensive hats, coats, shoes would be shined. The best suits and dresses would be worn. And that's how money would be made. Joe Louis was a money-making machine. But he would only get a percentage of the gross receipts. I don't think there would be another Joe Louis. Very popular in Harlem, New York. 1938 was some year. Henry Armstrong becomes a 3-world weight division champion. Joe Louis gets his revenge. Wow, what that was like. For Harlem, New York, I gotta tell you. Look out for part 4. Joe Louis. Right here in the Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. Thanks for hanging in there with me. Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. All great fights and all great fighters will never be forgotten on my channel.